that's probably the number one thing. You don't need an agent. You don't need a manager. You don't need an accountant. You need a lawyer.
Yeah.
And first, and then the other things will come.
Good advice. Good advice. One of the scenes, and I'll switch gears here, but one of the scenes that did impress me, that got my attention while I was watching it, was all of a sudden there's a SWAT team going in, and I was like, wow.
Yeah, that was actually a little bit of a big day, a little bit of a hectic day. Nathan, you want to tell that one?
We had a good friend of mine who was a former cop, and we also had very close to us a really good place that had a lot of great gear, guns, and equipment. So, and I also had another friend who owned a restaurant in Anthony the Valet, so he allowed us to shoot our SWAT scene in front of his house. So we managed to get a pretty good deal. We didn't actually have anyone like super professional, except we rented an ETF agent who was the same as a SWAT.
Yeah, basically an off-duty cop, right? You can rent them like you do for all movie productions. So we thought we had all of our bases covered. The one thing we didn't do was inform the local police precinct that we would be there with guys with covered faces and machine guns. The other unfortunate thing we didn't really realize is that about 50 feet up the street from the restaurant was a large old age home. So you can see kind of once you have these young guys full of beans who are not really trained, and they're pulling up in police cars and jumping out, and there's one poor old lady that somebody told me just basically jumped into the bushes as she came out of the old age home. And the cops did roll up on us, but thankfully
the ETF guy got us out of it. And our guys did a good job. I mean, luckily my friend was a cop, and we rehearsed it pretty well, and the guys knew exactly how to take someone down. But, again, stuff happens when you have a low-budget movie. Like the sirens didn't work on the car, on the police car, So there's always little things that pop up, but we managed it to be hectic enough and them to look professional enough that it ended up working out.
Yep. But that was basically, I guess, we shot that whole thing in about 3 hours, really. It was pretty quick.
And the different interview sequences with his name is Shane, the officer.
That's Shane Harbinson, yeah.
And the woman who plays the
Kelly McIntosh. That's Kelly.
What is Kelly?
Yeah, Kelly McIntosh.
You said originally that Shane's was just like a quarter of a page, but then it became extended. Did you at that point then script this stuff out and then shoot them all in a day or two, or how did you shoot their interview sequences?
Basically, with Shane, we knew we had such great stuff. We actually did his. Basically, I guess his was almost a window, really.
Well, we wrote the questions.
Yeah, we wrote the questions. It was almost a target of opportunity that we did on the same day we were shooting the old age home. We just did it in a side room, literally set him up there, and we knew what we were going to do. We knew what questions we were going to ask. He knew what sort of expository stuff we had to get out. But we rolled on him for, I think, 50 minutes or something like that, just continuously. And it was a thank you very much. He had done everything. And we basically, the more we went through editing, the more we ended up relying or leaning on his performance. Again, that was just a great gift, and, I call it getting away with one as a director, and a writer and everything else.
Right, well,
be that it so good.
Yeah, I mean, he really did. But I also was very impressed by Callie, and it was similar thing with her?
Similar sort of experience, quite frankly, with her. I actually had run into her while I was working on another friend's documentary, and she just seemed like such a forceful personality, and was so. She had a very strong way about her that I thought, yeah, she might be interested in this. And again, she surprised the hell out of us. We sort of told her how we like to work, how we love improv. She was right into that, and basically showed up on set with reams of extra research and reams of great little points that she made. But really, we needed somebody as strong as Shane to hold up, to balance that table, and she knocked it out of the park. I've seen
documentaries where people are talking about like real serial killers saying these exact same things that she said. Like she did it.
No, absolutely. I mean, they both were very, very believable, and which led me to, was it scripted and they were learning their lines, but how you all pulled it off. The other person who I would ask about right now, I mean, it comes to mind. What about the farmer? Where did you get this?
What a blessing he was.
He's actually the grandfather to my godchildren. It's my aunt's husband. So he's kind of a distant relative, but I've always, I met him a couple of times and we've just hit it off. I mean, he's a great guy. He's got that pig farm. He actually has that pig farm just north of Hamilton around here. And we kind of just went up there and asked him to be himself, because he's very gregarious and he likes telling stories. He likes being. So I asked him if he wouldn't mind if we came up with our actor and you just gave us a tour of the farm and just be yourself.
Yeah, I mean, some of that stuff was obviously had to be staged. We had to direct him just in the slightest of ways, just to get some timing and some blocking and stuff like that. But again, in the original script, he was just, basically a good Samaritan who was, at the farm. I think that the original scene in the script was, 2 pages, where he changes the tire, gives him something to eat, and they're out the door. And the original cut from that scene alone was, 35 minutes. He went on and on. It was its own little short film, and he was just a magical, wonderful apparition of a character who kills for a living. Much like our hero Anthony, but is obviously the nicest, most family-oriented, and most generous person in the world. And a lot of that, most of that stuff we didn't have to certainly build that smoke shack or even bring the food. We actually showed up and they cooked that meal for us. So
cool.
We're very excited about the film coming out.
Well, no kidding. And again, it's April 22nd at the Times Cinema in Milwaukee. The website is longpigsthefilm.com. Is that correct?
Pigs the Film, and we also have you can go to the Long Pigs fan site on Facebook, which also basically will keep you updated about what's going on.
Fantastic. Now we've got literally about 4 minutes left, and in that remaining time, I'd like to ask you. In the 7 years from its conception to its production to its getting distribution, if you had to do it all over again, what would you have done differently? What mistakes did you now know that you didn't, so that other people out there who are filmmakers could go, oh, okay, this is important to know. I mean, you've told us so much already, and I really do appreciate it, but just to sum up in the final stages here, because one of the things is that I think is really, I hope comes clear to people, is one, it's great to have a really powerful story. Everything is story, and then it's driven by the performances, and you've got marvelous performances. So I'm going to shut up and listen.
Well, we made more mistakes than we encounter. I guess what would I have done differently? I don't know that you can even ask that, because it's such an organic process making a movie that, I kind of believe in the Coppola, theory about, kind of the movie is sometimes just the energy you have at the time and where you are and the people that you know. So, already it's starting to look like kind of a snapshot to us of where we were, a few years ago, just because our lives have already changed so much already since we shot that movie. The one thing I would say is not to give any money to anybody up front. We kind of got bilked by a guy who was promising about getting us investments and stuff, and you just gotta be careful if you get any money at all. I don't know, Nathan, you want to comment?
Yeah, I think that particularly was a big thing, especially when you're raising money. You're obviously spending money if you're making a movie, and you have to be careful because people are will hover around you and try to take some of that money. Mm-hmm. And we had a guy early on who promised to close the deal for us. He was going to write our prospectus that we brought to our investors, and all he did was download a prospectus off the internet, give it to us, and charge us 10% of our budget. And we're 2 young filmmakers just trying to make our movie, and this guy's been in the business for a long time, and I really felt like that it was a very unethical thing for him to do, even though he didn't really do anything illegal. But it's little things like that that can really dishearten you, and you can get caught up in that stuff. And I think having a lawyer, is the number one thing. Pay a guy to look at everything. If we had a good lawyer at that time, we might have been able to say, hey, take a look at this perspective. He wants $10,000, and he'll say no. But that's a big thing. Is just be careful of your money.
Yeah, and again, I might say, the thing that might have made the whole process easier might have been having a star. But again, like you say, I don't think it would have been the same film or nearly as effective. So maybe we had to suffer for our art.
And everyone can make a bad movie, and this isn't really what we wouldn't have done. But I think you just have to be true to yourself And the more, you take yourself seriously and you tell your story the